Hello, and welcome to Behind the Gavel. I'm Andy Gavrin, Vice President of the Lower Merion Township Board of Commissioners. I'm joined today by Board President Todd Sinai. Welcome, Todd.
Thank you.
You've been president for about a month now. Congratulations on your election.
Well, thank you very much.
How's the first month been?
It has been busy.
Yeah?
It's been very busy. A lot of ramping up to do, a lot of talking with the people who are on the board, and sort of setting the stage so we can have an agenda for the next year, for 2022 and then 2023.
That's great. Well, early returns are in, and everyone's had positive comments to say, so I think we're off to a great start.
Well, I hope that's true. Thank you very much.
And you succeeded Dan Bernheim, who served as president of the board for 5 years, was obviously an amazing president and really did a lot of great things for the board. What did you learn from Dan that you think is going to help you in your tenure as president?
Yeah, Dan has been terrific. He's an absolutely terrific leader, and I would underscore leader. I think that's important for a board president. We have, as you know, 14 commissioners on the board, 13 of whom are not president.
Right.
And everyone, it's a very flat hierarchy, right? The president is not so much, someone who's elevated above the rest of the board, like we have, like the presidency
Right.
of the United States. It's really more like the group leader, the coordinator of everyone, helping everyone sort of row their oar in the same direction. And Dan was very good at that.
He was.
And I hope to keep that up. I think the other thing that Dan really was exemplary at was he really paid attention to fiscal discipline. And that's important, right? So no matter what your agenda is, we are the stewards of the money, the funds that the township residents entrust with us. And we need to be wise about it. And so what we currently have is the lowest debt level than we've had in a very long time, a very strong fund balance.
Yep.
And we need to be really disciplined about how we choose to allocate that to really where we're creating the most value for our residents.
Yeah. Great. I think, like I said, I think you've certainly paid attention during your tenure on the board so far, and I think it'll serve us very well as we move forward.
Yeah, thank you.
So another big change we've had on the board is we have a new commissioner for Ward 8, Shawn Kramer. Obviously, there's some confusion with two Commissioner Kramers and two Shawns now on the board, but I know we all have very high hopes for Shawn. We all think very highly of her. Can you tell us a little bit about Shawn and what you expect from her and her time on the board?
Yeah, Shawn is terrific. She's absolutely terrific and a great addition to the board. And I could tell immediately from the first time I met with her that she was going to be a great addition. And I think there are a couple of things that make someone really have an aptitude for this. And I think the first is that she really is thoughtful, and she is I don't know quite how to put this. Like she works with people, right? So she really sort of assimilates ideas, works with people, brings people together, is a good communicator, and really, like in any group endeavor, like being on the board of commissioners, to accomplish things, to actually make headway on the things that you care about, you really have to be able to work with people and sort of bring them, to your ideas. And she's really good about that, and she's very balanced and very. I don't want to say middle of the road, because she's not. She has a point of view about what the township should stand for, but she's very thoughtful and balanced in how she approaches it, and I think that's going to be terrific.
Yeah, I think that's very accurate. The other thing I've seen just from my early discussions with her is her inquisitiveness, and I learned from a previous boss just wanting to know everything and learn about things and really understand what you don't know, and wanting to learn about that really just makes such a difference and really prepares you for some of the decisions that we have to make in our time on the board. So I agree. I think she'll be a wonderful addition to our board.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, and sadly, one of the things we do have to deal with is COVID. We're 2 years into the COVID pandemic. What do you see? Obviously the Omicron surge is now waning. It's still here. It's not gone. Kind of, what do you see the board's reaction and how the township's going to react as we continue through this pandemic?
I mean, so there's really two dimensions on which we need to think about that. The first is just the operations of the township and the board, and the second is what are we role modeling, or what policies are we putting in place for our residents?
Right.
So when I started as board president, since the night of January 3rd, we were in the middle of the Omicron surge. right? We're really at the height of
Right.
it, leading into it. So the very first thing I did as board president was to actually, you and I discussed
Yeah.
this, right, as our policy, to not have any of the advisory boards meet in the month of January. Let's say we're required by code to meet because we didn't want to have to bring them together in person.
Right.
And we de-densified the boards that did have to be in person because we have a very big boardroom with lots of airspace. And so people were masked with the best, highest quality masks that you could do. That's the advice that all the our health
Right.
advisory committee and all the medical professionals give is to move beyond cloth masks, surgical masks at least, KN95 masks if you can.
Right.
And then we just spread people out a lot, and we haven't had any transmission among governments, right? And now that we are kind of have Omicron waning, we can kind of start to dial that back a bit.
Yeah.
The advisory boards are meeting this month, and that's been very successful as a policy. In the township, our manager McNeely has also done similar things to try and manage, like any organization would, transmission within the township. Now, going forward, we're going to have to keep an eye on this because it's waning now. I think most people view that it's going to wane over the course of the summer.
Right.
But by the time we get to next Thanksgiving, who knows? We're going to have to just sort of keep an eye on it and manage prudently like we always do. I think it is important, if you listen to some of the public health professionals, it's to relax restrictions when it's safe to relax restrictions, so people are not burned out when you actually need them to ramp it back up, right? We do need the credibility to say when it is important in the township, when it's important for public health, when our hospitals are overwhelmed. Like, we will need to gather together at that point. But let's keep our powder dry to actually say, yes, this is when we need it at that point.
I think that makes a lot of sense. And you had mentioned masks, and one thing, I don't have a question for you, but I do want to give you kudos. One amendment that you had recently made when we were talking about our ARP funding, which we'll get to later, is a little preview and foreshadowing. But you had made an amendment to allocate $11,000 to buy masks for the school district to hand out to those students and their families who are in need. And I think it was a wonderful initiative and something that you deserve a lot of kudos for recommending. And I think it's a sign of, with new leadership on the school board as well, the hope that the two governing bodies really can have a strong relationship moving forward, because there is a lot that, as we govern together in this township, that we're working together hand in hand. So just, again, no question there, no need for a comment, just wanted to say great job on that.
I will comment briefly on it, in that is just another example of ideas that percolated up from the group of commissioners that we were able to implement. And like you said, we sort of targeted it very, very nicely. And the school district was a tremendous partner very early on, saying that they would be interested in distributing those masks if we were able to make them available. And it was great to be able to work with them on that.
Yeah, excellent. So let's switch gears a little bit again. We just had a workshop on our saldo. Most people have no idea what a saldo is. I will pretend that I know what a saldo is. Hopefully I do, because I've been dealing with it for a long time now. But I'd like you to just kind of tell us a little bit, what is the saldo? What are we doing? Why are we looking at this? And where are we going
Absolutely,
from there?
The saldo stands for Subdivision and Land Development Ordinance. And so it is the portion of the code, or township ordinances, that govern what happens when you have new development. And we don't have a whole lot of new development in the township because we are a largely built-out township. Right. But redevelopment and new development comes under this ordinance. And it covers things like the standards for sidewalks, how things are built, what the design standards are, what greening standards are, and things like that. And just like our zoning code, which we updated not that long ago, but for the first time in nearly a century, right? Yeah. The saldo has not been updated other than incrementally over time, and there's time to take a clean sweep, integrate it with our zoning code, make it more attuned to issues, modern standards for greening. Yep. And that's largely what it has done.
Okay, great. So on the real estate or kind of development front, one other thing, and you have a day job. You are not only the president of the board of the commissioners, you are a professor at Wharton, a little school in Philadelphia that some of us have heard of and others of us have gone to.
Right.
We are looking at an Ardmore master plan, and wanted to get your thoughts. We're just now putting it out to bid to consultants to help work with us. And I think after the break, a little teaser here, after the break, we'll talk a little bit about your thoughts for the Ardmore master plan.
That would be terrific. One of the exciting things going on in the township.
Excellent. Well, that'll do it for our first segment, but as we said, there's much more to get to in addition to the master plan, so stay tuned and we'll be right back with more Behind the Gavel and with President Sinai. Welcome back to Behind the Gavel. I'm Board Vice President Andy Gavrin, and I hope you enjoyed those messages from our Public Works Department. I'm here with our Board President, Todd Sinai. Thanks again for joining us today, Todd.
Yeah, thank you again, Andy.
My pleasure. And as we said before the break, we were going to talk about the Ardmore Master Plan a little bit. So what do you think of Ardmore? Where should it go? What's the point of doing a master plan for Ardmore?
Well, Andy, so we have only 12 minutes left in this segment. I could talk about this for hours. So one of the things that are enormous amenities for townships such as ours is what I'll call the downtown areas, right? And because if we were here in Lower Merion 100 years ago, like the downtown areas where you would go buy your clothing, it would be where you would buy your groceries, it would be sort of on the streetscape. And streetscapes have changed, right? Our downtown areas have changed. You no longer are going to downtown Ardmore quite as much to do that. Instead, what it has become, it's become more of a community gathering center. Right? And so in those areas, you have restaurants, you have retail, you have activities. And this township has not traditionally co-located those things. Right? If you take a more classic town with a town center, then those things naturally are all together in the middle, and then everyone's on the outside, they kind of come together. In Lower Merion, because it came about on a train line, we've become very linear, and we have a series of these. So over time, the township has evolved, and Ardmore is starting to have that gravity, right? Yeah. And so our role as a township is to help steward that, to get to have it be a place that people in the township want to go and want to go more to, and has the things that they want to do. And that's a mix of things that can happen there. So what are the things that people tend to want? They tend to want some green space for doing some activities, so a park. They tend to want restaurants, right, that attracts people. They want other things to experiential things to do. They want opportunities to have places to sit and gather with people in small areas, not an enormous park, right? Yeah. So all those things don't just happen organically in a downtown, right? You have to kind of manage it. And so how do you do that? Well, in a township such as ours, you do that through planning, and that's what the master plan is for, is to help us kind of provide direction. So all the various property owners and developers and tenants in Ardmore kind of have a common vision to work towards. So it feels like a place, right? More like a place. It's already a place, right? So basically build on the strengths that Ardmore have to just sort of make it, even enhance it, make it better, and guide what happens there in the future.
Gotcha. So as you know, I have 3 pre-teenage daughters who love going to Suburban Square,
of course.
Love the green space. I mean, all of the things that you said. They want to make sure that we're not going to ruin that for them. Right. Are we going to ruin it for them?
We are not going to ruin it for them. And it's very funny. So when I was a teenager, we went. I'm originally from the Boston area. We went to the Burlington Mall. Right, the mall is where you went. There was an enclosed indoor mall, right? Because it was in Boston, right? But so here people go to Suburban Square, and Suburban Square is really interesting. It's like a downtown, and that's why it's attractive, right? What does it have? It has places to eat, it has places to hang out, it has and so Ardmore becomes complementary to that, right? Or Suburban Square becomes complementary to Ardmore. It'd be nice to have great connectivity between the two. I agree. But it should be one area that people go to. And in my grand dream, you would get to go park once and walk through the whole area and not feel like you have to drive one place to another place to another place. It should just feel like a seamless downtown when we get to the end of whatever implementation. And the first step of that is a master plan.
That would be wicked awesome, as you'd say up in Boston. Anyway, so you talked about us being stewards. Yeah. We're also stewards for our planet. And sustainability has become more and more important to us. And in fact, we had through the Township an Environmental Initiatives Committee that you were proposing to change to a Sustainability Committee.
Correct.
Can you talk a little bit about that and some of the initiatives and plans moving forward?
Yeah, so I mean, we had an Environmental Initiatives Committee, which is what we used to call an ad hoc committee. It was very topic oriented, and it had a particular function it was focusing on, which is environmental initiatives. And I think we have all come to appreciate that sustainability is more than just environmental initiatives, and sustainability is something that really should be part of every calculation we do at the Township. And every calculation we do at the Township, we are conscious of the budget impact, as we should be. And we should also be conscious of the environmental impact. We're conscious on the impact of on our residents and where they like it, and whether we're providing value in the services to them.
Of course.
So this is just one of the dimensions. And now we have a sustainability manager, right, in Paloma Villa.
Yep.
And we have a function in the Township that recognizes that this is something that's not just in each department. And I'll tell you, this township historically has been terrific on sustainability initiatives. One of the things I discovered as being a commissioner was absolutely terrific. And Public Works would do stuff, and Parks and Recreation would do stuff, and every department would do things, and there was nothing that was bringing it all together and showing our residents these are the things that we're doing, right? So elevating it to be a topic, an issue, or really a function, I guess, of itself. It seemed like the right thing to do. And then within that, we can work on whatever additional initiatives seem to be important for this township to be doing, right? And look to our peer townships to see what they are doing, look to what we're doing internally to say what are we already doing that we should build on.
Right.
What are things that we should pilot, things like that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and I know it'll be a focus, and we will certainly see initiatives coming out of that committee. One of the big initiatives that we've seen recently is ARP, American Rescue Plan. The federal government gave us a lot of money, as they did to a lot of local governments, really to make the governments whole, to help out, with problems that occurred due to the coronavirus, pandemic. Thank you. That's the word. It's always good. That's why we have guests here. So we received as a township approximately $25 million. I was fortunate enough to co-chair our finance committee over the past year as we allocated the first half of the money that came to the township in 2021. And we had a lot of debate. We had a lot of ideas that came from various commissioners, from the community. And I'm really proud of what we ended up doing we allocated approximately $11.5 million on a number of projects. Approximately $1 million for the Ashbridge House, so in the center of our township, Ashbridge Park, the historic Class 1 resource there, which hopefully will end up being used by New Horizons Senior Center to serve the seniors in our community, to really clean that up and get that into shape where they can use it. Another $250,000 for the Bryn Mawr Community Center, where ElderNet is home, also servicing seniors in need in our community. We allocated $700,000 to finish the work for pedestrians on East Levering Mill Road. Our building and planning director often calls or talks about complete streets, right? Streets are not only for cars, it's for bikes and for pedestrians as well. And we had a project in the pipeline that we were struggling to finance, frankly, and this gave us an opportunity to really take a street that was really important and well used and create that complete street over the next couple of years with that. Also money to stormwater management. As we've seen, flooding and storms have gotten more and more aggressive thanks to climate change over the past few years, and we have a lot of requirements for stormwater management, and we were able to allocate about $500,000 to that as well. And then $10 million, a really big chunk of that, was to the Ardmore Avenue Community Center and Positive Aging in Lower Merion, the home for both of those. It's something that's been in our pipeline for a long time, that we have said we need to update these buildings, whether it's renovating or rebuilding these buildings. But it is such a huge project that we just haven't had the funds to do it. This gave us a great opportunity to help out these organizations, POM and our Ardmore Community Center, And really this gave us the opportunity to take on this project, which is great.
I think there were like two things from the round one allocation of the ARP funds I thought were really terrific for the township. The first is what you pulling together one of the things that you said, which is the vast, maybe 90% of the money that was allocated for capital projects for that supported entities in our township that provide services for people in need, right? Or for communities, right? And so the Ardmore Avenue Community Center, Positive Aging in Lower Merion, New Horizons in Ashbridge House, ElderNet in the Bryn Mawr Community Center, right? These are all supporting communities in our township. And while it looks like it's capital spending, it is capital spending for that function.
Definitely.
And what it ends up being is a way for supporting them for 20 years, 30 years, as opposed to just this year,
right.
Which is a great way of making the ARP funds last.
Yeah.
I think the second thing that was great about the ARP allocation in round one was that, or rather to think about these projects, was that really ARP, a large chunk of that was designed for the municipalities and cities that had a huge revenue hit due to COVID and needed to fill a hole in their budgets. And in this township, it didn't quite look like we had a hole in our budget because we had sort of just where our trajectory was.
Right.
But we were still 12 million short of where we would have been absent COVID.
Right.
Right. And if we had that $12 million from our revenues, I think we would have gotten to the palm. And I think we would have done these things, right? And so we were using the ARP money, in large part to replace the revenue that would have let us get to these really super important projects that did not show up because of COVID.
Yeah. So we don't have much time left, but I know as we said, we spent about 11.5 of the 25 million. Quick thoughts on the balance of it?
The balance of it is going to be a process, right? So we need to engage with the community. We need to engage with various stakeholders in the community, whether it is nonprofits, residents, small businesses, other tenants. We talk to landowners a lot, but we don't necessarily talk to people who are tenants in their buildings, and use that to help figure out what the set of possible things we should use the ARP money for, and then the Board of Commissioners can choose from those.
Sounds like a process.
Yes.
Thank you, Todd. We're out of time for this edition of Behind the Gavel. Thank you, Todd, for joining me today.
Thank you very much, Andy.
And thank you for joining us. I'm Andy Gavrin, and look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great day.